Millions of drivers are quietly destroying their automatic transmissions every single day, and they have absolutely no idea they're doing it. According to repair shop data, the average automatic transmission rebuild now costs between $4,000 and $6,000, and most of these failures come from simple habits the driver picked up years ago and never questioned. Today we're counting down 22 stupid mistakes that are wrecking your automatic car right now. Let's begin now with secret number 22. Secret number 22, resting your hand on the gear shifter. You've probably done this 1,000 times. You're cruising down the highway, left hand on the wheel, right hand draped casually over the gear shifter. Feels natural, feels comfortable. It's also slowly damaging your transmission. Here's what most drivers never notice. That shifter isn't just a lever you move when parking. It's connected directly to internal selector forks inside the transmission, and even light pressure from your resting hand pushes those forks against components that were never designed to hold weight. Over months and years, that constant pressure causes premature wear on bushings and the manual valve. The fix takes zero effort. Keep both hands on the wheel or rest your right hand on your leg. That's it. You just saved yourself from a slow-motion repair that could run several $100s in parts alone. But here's a mistake that's even more common, and this next one could be costing you fuel economy at the exact moment you think you're saving it. Secret number 21. Coasting in neutral to save gas. Ever heard someone brag that they shift into neutral going downhill to save fuel? Maybe your dad taught you this trick, maybe you still do it. It's an old habit from carbureted manual cars from the 1970s, and in a modern automatic, it does the exact opposite of what you think. Here's the kicker. When you're in gear and coasting downhill with your foot off the gas, modern fuel injection systems actually cut fuel delivery to the engine completely. You're using zero gasoline. The moment you shift to neutral, the engine has to idle, which means it starts burning fuel again to keep itself running, so you're not saving anything. You're spending more, and on top of that, you've lost engine braking, meaning you're now riding your brakes down the hill, cooking the brake pads and warping the rotors. A new set of front rotors and pads runs $400 to $700 at most shops. Leave it in drive, but here's a mistake that's even worse than that one, and this next one is destroying transmissions in driveways all over the country. Secret number 20, shifting into park before the car fully stops. Picture this. You're pulling into your garage, you're already late, and as the car rolls the last few inches, you click the shifter into park. The car jolts to a stop. No big deal, right? Wrong. You just hammered one of the smallest, most expensive parts in your entire transmission. Inside your transmission, there's a tiny piece of metal called the parking pole. It's about the size of your thumb, and its only job is to drop into a notched gear and hold the car still. When you shift into park while the car is still moving, that pole slams into a spinning gear. Sometimes it survives, sometimes it cracks, sometimes it shears off entirely, and now metal shavings are circulating through your transmission fluid like sandpaper. The right way takes 2 extra seconds. Come to a complete stop, press the brake firmly, shift into park, then engage your parking brake, then release the foot brake. That sequence takes the load off the pole entirely and transfers it to the parking brake, which is designed to hold the weight of your car. Skip this and you're rolling the dice on a repair that starts at $1,200. But here's what makes this next one even worse, because it happens in the first 5 seconds of every drive. Secret number 19, launching from a dead stop by flooring it. You pull up to a green light. The lane next to you looks like it's about to merge in. You stomp the gas. The engine roars, the car lurches, and you take off. Feels powerful. Looks fine. But under that hood, you just put your transmission through something it was never built to handle from a dead stop. When you floor an automatic from 0 miles per hour, the torque converter has to absorb a massive sudden load. Suddenly, internal clutches that should engage smoothly are being slammed together, and transmission fluid temperatures spike by 50 degrees or more in seconds. Do this repeatedly, and you're glazing the friction surfaces inside the converter, which is the #1 cause of premature converter failure. The fix is simple. Roll into the throttle. Give it a half second of gentle acceleration before you push hard. Your transmission will last tens of thousands of miles longer, and honestly, you'll get to the next red light at exactly the same time. But here's a myth that's even more damaging, and most car owners believe it without question. Secret number 18, skipping transmission fluid changes because it's sealed. Here's something the dealership probably told you. Your transmission is sealed for life, no service required, never needs a fluid change. It sounds great. It saves you money on maintenance. And it's one of the most expensive lies in the automotive world. Most people think sealed for life means the fluid lasts forever. But actually, it means the manufacturer expects the transmission to last roughly the warranty period, which is often 100,000 miles. After that, the fluid is your problem. And by 60,000 to 80,000 miles, that fluid has broken down, picked up metal particles, and lost most of its ability to lubricate and cool. Here's what they don't tell you. Even on a so-called sealed transmission, there's almost always a drain plug, a fill plug, and a check port. A qualified independent shop can perform a drain and fill for $150 to $250. Compare that to a $5,000 rebuild, and the math is obvious. Most modern automatics should get fresh fluid every 60,000 miles regardless of what the owner's manual claims. But here's the kicker, because even when people do change their fluid, this next mistake undoes all the benefit. Secret number 17, using the wrong transmission fluid type. You've decided to be responsible. You're changing the transmission fluid yourself, or you took it to a quick lube place down the road. Either way, somebody grabbed a jug labeled Universal Automatic Transmission Fluid and poured it in. You just made a $5,000 mistake. This feature exists because modern transmissions are not interchangeable. A Honda needs Honda DW1 or equivalent. A Toyota wants world standard or Type TI4. Chrysler products often require ATFR. Use the wrong fluid and the friction modifiers are off, the viscosity is wrong, and the clutches inside your transmission start slipping or grabbing harshly within a few hundred miles. The fix takes 1 minute. Pop your owner's manual to the fluids section. Write down the exact fluid specification. Bring that piece of paper to whoever services your car, and don't accept it's basically the same. It's not. The right fluid costs maybe $10 more per quart. Cheap insurance against the most expensive repair on your vehicle. But here's what most drivers never notice, and this next one is silently damaging cars all winter long. Secret number 16. Letting the fuel tank run near empty repeatedly. You've probably done this. You see the gas light, you tell yourself you've got 40 more miles and you push it. Most people think this is just risky in case you run out. But actually, you're slowly killing your fuel pump. And on many modern cars, that pump sits inside the transmission cooling loop or shares circuits with transmission electronics. Here's why it matters. Your fuel pump lives inside the gas tank, and it's cooled and lubricated by the gasoline surrounding it. When the tank runs low, the pump runs hot, sucks up sediment from the bottom of the tank, and can overheat. A failed fuel pump on most vehicles runs $600 to $1,200 to replace, and the labor involves dropping the entire fuel tank. The simple fix? Refuel when you hit 1/4 of a tank. Your wallet, your fuel pump, and your transmission's electronic controls will all thank you. But here's what's even worse than that, and this next mistake happens in parking lots every single day. Secret number 15. Switching from reverse to drive while still rolling backward. You're backing out of a parking spot. You're almost where you want to be. Without quite stopping, you click the shifter from reverse straight into drive and start pulling forward. The car shudders for a half second, then goes. No warning lights, no noise. You just inflicted real internal damage. Here's what's happening inside that transmission. Reverse and drive use opposing sets of clutches and bands. When you're rolling backward and force the transmission into drive, those forward clutches have to grab a spinning input shaft moving the wrong direction and reverse it almost instantly. According to transmission rebuilders, this is one of the top 3 causes of premature clutch pack failure on modern automatics. The right way costs you exactly 1 second. Come to a complete stop, feel the car settle, then shift to drive. Same thing in the opposite direction. Full stop before reverse, every time. 1 second of patience versus a transmission rebuild somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. But here's where things get really expensive, because the next mistake is one almost every driver makes on long downhill grades. Secret number 14. Riding the brake down long hills instead of downshifting. Picture this. You're driving down a long mountain grade, and your foot is parked on the brake pedal the entire way down. Maybe you let off here and there, but mostly you're just feathering the brakes for 2, 3, 4 miles straight. By the time you reach the bottom, those brakes are smoking hot, and you've done real damage you can't see. Here's what's happening. Brake pads and rotors handle short bursts of heat just fine. What they cannot handle is sustained heat over several minutes. The fluid inside your brake line starts to boil, the pads glaze over and lose their grip, and the rotors warp from uneven cooling. The next time you tap the brakes hard, you might find the pedal goes soft, or the steering wheel shakes violently. The fix is built right into your shifter. Most automatics have a 2 or L position, and many newer cars have manual mode paddles. Drop the transmission down 1 or 2 gears at the top of the hill. Suddenly, the engine is doing the braking for you, your foot barely touches the pedal, and your brakes stay cool. Saves you $400 to $800 in brake work and could save your life on a steep descent. But this next one is even sneakier, because it only matters when you're hauling something heavy. Secret number 13. Towing heavy loads without using tow haul mode. You hooked up the boat, you loaded the trailer with mulch from the garden center. You've got a U-Haul behind the SUV. and you took off down the road in regular drive, just like always. Your transmission is screaming for help, and you can't hear it. Most modern trucks and SUVs have a button on the shifter or dashboard labeled tow haul, sometimes shown as a little trailer icon. When you press it, the transmission completely changes how it behaves. Shift points happen at higher RPMs to keep the engine in its power band. The torque converter locks up sooner to reduce heat. The transmission stops constantly hunting between gears on hills. And on most vehicles, engine braking gets activated automatically when you tap the brake pedal. Here's what they don't tell you at the dealership. Towing without tow haul mode can spike transmission fluid temperature past 250 degrees, and at that point, the fluid starts breaking down permanently. Every trip without that button pressed is shaving thousands of miles off your transmission's life. Press the button. It's there for a reason, but this next one might be the easiest mistake to fix on the entire list. Secret number 12. Ignoring small transmission leaks. You pull out of the driveway and notice a small reddish spot on the concrete, maybe the size of a quarter, maybe a little bigger. You think, well, it's not much, I'll keep an eye on it. 6 months later, you're in a repair shop being told your transmission is toast. Transmission fluid is reddish pink when it's new and turns dark brown or black as it ages. Engine oil is amber to black. If you see red or pink under your car, that's transmission fluid, and your transmission only holds about 8 to 12 quarts total. A leak that drips a few times a day can drop your fluid level below the safe minimum within weeks, and once that happens, internal parts run dry and metal grinds against metal. Here's the kicker. Most transmission leaks come from a pan gasket or a cooler line, and both repairs run between $100 and $350 at an independent shop. Catch it early and it's a cheap fix. Ignore it and you're looking at a $4,000 rebuild because you let the fluid run out. Get under your car with a flashlight once a month. Look for fresh red drips. That's it. But this next mistake makes mechanics shake their heads because it's almost entirely cosmetic, and it still does damage. Secret number 11, revving the engine in neutral or park. You're warming up the car on a cold morning. Or maybe you're just showing a friend how the engine sounds. You drop it into park, push the gas pedal, and let the RPMs climb. Sounds great, feels harmless. It's not. When your engine revs in park or neutral, the torque converter is still spinning fluid around inside the transmission, even though no power is being sent to the wheels. That spinning fluid heats up fast with nowhere for the energy to go. High RPM revving in park can spike fluid temperatures dramatically in under a minute, and heat is the #1 killer of automatic transmissions. The fix is just to stop doing it. If you want to warm the engine, let it idle for 30 seconds and then drive gently for the first few miles. Driving warms the engine and the transmission far faster than sitting in the driveway revving it ever will. Your wallet will thank you, and so will your neighbors at 6 in the morning. But this next one is even worse in cold weather, and most northern drivers are guilty of it. Secret number 10. Cold weather flooring before the engine warms up. It's 20 degrees outside. You start the car, scrape the windshield, hop in, and immediately pull onto the road and accelerate hard to merge into traffic. The engine is cold, the transmission fluid is thick as molasses, and you just demanded full power from a system that needs at least a few minutes to warm up. Cold transmission fluid does not flow properly through the narrow passages inside your transmission valve body. When you floor it cold, you're forcing the pump to push thick fluid through tight spaces, which spikes pressure and starves certain clutches of lubrication. Repeat this every winter morning, and you're looking at premature wear on the very components that are most expensive to replace. The fix takes 60 seconds. Start the car, let it idle for about a minute on a cold day. Then drive gently for the first 3 to 5 miles, keeping the RPMs under 3,000. Once the temperature gauge moves off the cold mark, you can drive normally. That little bit of patience adds years to your transmission's life. But this next one is happening at every red light in America, and it's brutal on a part most people don't even know exists. Secret number 9. Holding the car on a hill with the gas pedal instead of the brake. Before we get to the really mind-blowing stuff, do me a favor and hit that like button. We did a ton of research for this, and it actually helps us keep making content like this. Done? Awesome. Now back to it. You've pulled up at a stoplight on an incline. Instead of holding the brake, you're feathering the gas pedal just enough to keep the car from rolling backward. Maybe you learned it driving stick years ago. In an automatic, you're cooking your transmission alive. When you do this, the torque converter is trying to push the car forward while the weight of the car is pushing it backward. All that energy turns directly into heat inside the transmission fluid. According to transmission specialists, fluid temperatures during this kind of stall can climb past 300 degrees in under 2 minutes, and transmission fluid starts breaking down at 250. The fix is the simplest thing in the world. Use the brake. If the hill is steep, pull the parking brake while you wait. Let the brakes do what they're designed for. Your transmission will run cooler, last longer, and you'll save yourself from one of the dumbest, most preventable repair bills out there. But this next one trips up drivers who think they're being smart, and it's costing them transmissions across the country. Secret number 8, using sport or manual mode without understanding it. You bought a car with sport mode, or paddle shifters, or a manual mode on the shifter labeled M with a plus and minus. It looked impressive on the test drive. Now you flip it on for fun, downshift hard at high speeds, or leave it in sport mode for your entire commute. You're putting your transmission through unnecessary stress every single day. Sport mode tells the transmission to hold gears longer, shift at higher RPMs, and keep the torque converter locked up more aggressively. That's fine for the occasional spirited drive. Used as your daily setting, it runs the transmission hotter, burns more fuel, and accelerates wear on internal components. Manual mode is even worse if you misuse it. Downshifting from 6 to 2nd at highway speed can over-rev the engine and slam the clutch packs hard enough to crack them. Here's the rule. Use sport mode when you actually need extra power, like passing on a 2-lane road or merging onto a fast highway. Use manual mode for engine braking down hills or maintaining a specific gear when towing. Then put it back in regular drive. These modes are tools, not toys. Secret number 7, driving with the parking brake partially engaged. You parked on a slope last night, pulled the parking brake and headed inside. This morning you released it, or at least you thought you did. You've been driving for 15 minutes and something smells faintly like burning toast. Your parking brake never fully released, and now your rear brakes are glowing red hot. Here's what most drivers never notice. A parking brake that's only 80 or 90% released still drags on the rear rotors or drums every single mile you drive. The brakes overheat, the pads glaze, and on many cars, the heat travels into the wheel bearings and the transmission's rear seal. A burned-out rear seal alone can dump a quart of transmission fluid onto the highway in a matter of minutes. The fix is a 5-second habit. Every time you start the car, glance at your dashboard for the parking brake light, then gently roll forward and feel for any drag or pulling. If something feels off, stop and check. A set of rear brakes runs $300 to $600. A burned transmission seal pulls you straight into the 4-figure repair zone. But this next mistake is one almost every driver has made at least once, and it's the most dangerous lie your car will ever tell you. Secret number 6, ignoring the check engine light when the car drives fine. The little yellow engine icon pops up on your dashboard. The car drives perfectly. No weird noises, no shaking, no loss of power. So you ignore it. Maybe for a week, maybe for 6 months, maybe until your next state inspection. You're playing a very expensive game of chicken. Most people think the check engine light only matters when something feels wrong, but actually that light comes on long before you can feel a problem. A failing oxygen sensor, a slipping transmission solenoid, or a misfiring cylinder can all trigger that light while the car still drives smoothly. Meanwhile, the engine is running rich, dumping unburned fuel into your catalytic converter, or your transmission is logging a fault that's about to cascade into a full failure. Here's the kicker. Most auto parts stores will read the code for free in under 5 minutes. You drive over, they plug in a scanner, they tell you exactly what's wrong, and you go home with information. From there, you can decide if it's a $50 sensor swap or a real problem. What you cannot afford is letting a $200 fix turn into a $2,000 catalytic converter or a $4,000 transmission. But this next one is one that even careful owners get wrong, and it makes mechanics cringe. Secret number 5, topping off transmission fluid without checking why it's low. You checked your transmission dipstick and the level was a quart low, so you grabbed a bottle, poured some in, and called it done. You just hit a problem that's about to get much worse. Transmissions are sealed systems. Unlike engine oil, which burns off slowly over time, transmission fluid does not get consumed under normal operation. If your fluid is low, that means it's leaking out somewhere, period. Topping it off without finding the leak is like putting a band-aid on a hole in a bucket. The fluid you just added is going to end up on your driveway too. Here's what to do. Anytime you find the fluid low, get the car up on ramps or jack stands, grab a flashlight, and look at the transmission pan, the cooler lines, and the front and rear seals. Fresh red or pink wetness shows you exactly where the leak is. Most of these repairs run between $150 and $400 if caught early. Skip this step and the next time you check, the dipstick reads empty and your transmission is grinding its way to the junkyard. But this next one happens in driveways every single morning, and it's putting unnecessary wear on parts you can't easily replace. Secret number 4, putting it in drive before the reverse lights turn off. You're backing out of your spot. The moment you stop moving, you yank the shifter from reverse to drive and step on the gas. Feels efficient, feels like you're saving time. Watch your reverse lights in the rearview reflection. They're still on for a half second after you shift. That's because the transmission is still finishing the previous engagement. Inside the transmission, switching gears requires hydraulic pressure to release one set of clutches and engage another. That process takes a fraction of a second, and during that window, the gear you just selected has not fully locked in. If you stomp the gas during that window, you're forcing partially engaged clutches to handle full engine torque, which is exactly how clutch packs get burned. The fix is to count 1 full second between shifts. Stop, count 1 Mississippi, then accelerate. That tiny pause lets the transmission complete its engagement properly, costs you nothing, saves you from a clutch pack failure that runs anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 to repair. But this next one is for everyone driving a newer push-button start vehicle, and most of you are doing it wrong. Secret number 3. Skipping the brake pedal press before starting. You've got a push-button start car. Sometimes you push the button without your foot on the brake just to power up the radio or the climate control. Other times you tap it twice quickly to skip past accessory mode. Every car handles this slightly differently, and on many models, you're slowly draining the 12-volt battery and confusing the transmission control module. Here's what they don't tell you in the owner's manual. When you push the start button without the brake pressed, the car enters accessory mode, which powers the electronics but not the engine. If you walk away thinking the car is off, the dashboard, the radio, and certain control modules can stay live for hours, draining the battery. A drained 12-volt battery on a modern car can scramble transmission learning algorithms, force the dealer to reset adaptations, and sometimes trigger limp mode. The right way takes 1 second. Foot firmly on the brake, then push the button once to start. To shut down completely, put it in park, then push the button. Look for the dashboard to fully go dark before you walk away. That habit prevents dead batteries, electronic gremlins, and transmission issues that mechanics struggle to diagnose. But this next one could save your life as well as your transmission, and almost every driver has done it without thinking. Secret number 2. Using cruise control in stop-and-go or slippery conditions. Cruise control is one of the best features ever invented for long highway drives. It's also one of the most misused. People flip it on in light rain, on snowy roads, in heavy traffic, and on winding back roads. Every one of those situations turns a helpful tool into a dangerous one. Here's why it matters for your transmission and your safety. In rain or snow, if your tires lose grip, cruise control keeps trying to maintain speed, which can throw the car into a skid your reflexes can't recover. In stop-and-go traffic, the system constantly accelerates and brakes, forcing the transmission to shift up and down repeatedly, which generates excess heat and wear. On winding roads, cruise control tries to hold speed through corners where you should be slowing down, putting the car under stress no driver assist was meant to handle. The rule is simple. Cruise control is for dry, open highways with light traffic. The moment any of those conditions change, tap the brake to disengage and drive with both feet ready. Your transmission stays cooler, your tires last longer, and in bad weather you stay alive. But this last one is the most important habit on the entire list, and ignoring it is what turns a $200 repair into a $5,000 disaster. Secret number 1. Ignoring any new sound, smell, or shudder from the transmission. You're driving home from work like always, and something feels just a little different. Maybe a faint whining noise when you turn right. Maybe a slight shudder around 45 miles per hour just for a second, then it goes away. Maybe a faint smell like burnt toast or hot oil when you pull into the garage. Most drivers tell themselves it's nothing. They turn up the radio. They keep driving. That single decision is the most expensive mistake on this entire list. Your transmission talks to you long before it dies. A whine that gets louder when you turn one direction usually points to a failing wheel bearing or a transmission pump starting to fail. A shudder at a specific speed almost always means torque converter problems, often a worn lockup clutch. A burnt smell means the fluid is overheating and breaking down right now, which is the last warning you get before clutches start slipping. Here's what most drivers never notice until it's too late. Every one of those symptoms, if caught in the first week or two, is a relatively cheap fix. A torque converter shudder caught early can sometimes be solved with a fluid flush and the right additive for under $300. A bearing replaced before it destroys other parts runs $400 to $700. A transmission pan dropped, cleaned, and refilled when fluid first starts smelling burnt? About $250 at most independent shops. Wait 6 months on any of those symptoms and you're looking at a complete transmission rebuild, somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000, plus a week without your car. The math is brutal and the lesson is clear. Pay attention. Trust your gut. The first time something feels different, drive straight to a trusted mechanic and have it checked. Your transmission will tell you exactly when it needs help. Listen to it. If you remember nothing else from this entire video, remember number 1. The first new sound, smell, or shudder is your warning to act. Acting fast turns a $1,000 problem into a $250 fix. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 22 mistakes have you been making without realizing it? Drop the number in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you found this useful, hit subscribe for more money-saving tips most drivers never learn until it's too late. Drive smart out there, and I'll see you in the next one.